There are 3 places on a man's body that you should never touch unless your goal is to make him think about you every day afterward. It may seem dramatic, perhaps, but once you understand what happens in his brain and body when these points are activated in the right way, you'll realize that this isn't a game of seduction. It's pure chemistry. Most people think seduction begins with what you see. The truth is, it begins with what you touch, and more importantly, with what you don't touch. Because the fastest way to make a man desire you isn't by giving everything, but by knowing how to hold back at the precise moment. And before going any further, no, I'm not talking about the obvious places, the ones everyone already knows. I'm talking about the silent zones, the ones that make his body pause for a second, that change his breathing, and that leave his mind blank. These aren't just zones of desire, they're zones of trust. The first time I learned about this, I thought it was a myth. How could a simple brush or a gentle pause make a man more addicted than anything else? But then I saw how it worked. The look in his eyes wasn't just desire, it was surrender. Let's start by understanding why this happens. Human attraction isn't random. Touch is the oldest language we have. Older than words, older than eye contact. Every square inch of skin is equipped with sensors directly connected to the brain's emotional centers. When you touch certain places, you bypass logic and go straight to memory. That's why a moment of contact can last longer than a conversation or a kiss. But this is where it gets dangerous. Touching these zones without awareness can go wrong. It can make him uncomfortable, defensive, or worse, disconnected. That's why I said to never touch them unless you want him to become addicted. Now, before revealing the first place, I want you to remember something. Attraction is tension. Not chaos, not drama. Tension. The pull between what he feels and what he wants next. You can't create that tension by being obvious. You create it by understanding how curiosity, restraint, and rhythm dance together. This video isn't about manipulation, it's about awareness. Because when you know what your touch communicates, you stop guessing and start guiding. The first place is deceptively innocent, the nape of the neck. You might think it's just a neutral area, but it's one of the oldest erogenous zones, tied to both dominance and vulnerability. Biologically, when someone touches the back of our neck, it triggers a primitive reaction, a mix of alertness and surrender. For a man, it's a paradox he can't ignore. A light touch there, when the timing is right, can turn his confidence into softness in seconds. But the secret isn't in the pressure, it's in the pause. When the tips of your fingers linger just long enough for him to feel your warmth and then pull away before he expects it, his nervous system shifts into overdrive. He feels something building, but he doesn't get closure. That unfinished moment becomes a loop in his head, replaying long after the touch is gone. This is the psychology of anticipation, the same principle used in storytelling and music, and yes, in chemistry. If you close the loop too quickly, the tension dies. If you leave it open just right, it becomes an obsession. The next time you're near him, don't start with his face or his chest. Walk behind him. Let your hand slide slowly from his shoulder to the base of his neck. Stop there. Let the tips of your fingers rest for a beat. Then pull away as if you didn't mean to do it. You'll see it in his body language. The micro-freeze, the breath caught halfway. He won't say it, but his body will. That single moment will replay in his memory, silently building a question he can't shake off. Why did that feel so good? That's the power of a well-executed touch. But that's only the first place. There are 2 more. One that amplifies his sense of protection, and another that completely shuts off his logical brain. We'll get to those soon. For now, remember this. Attraction isn't about doing more. It's about doing less with precision. Less touching means more. Less talking, more feeling. And when you do it, his body will start listening to you long before his mind catches up. The second place you should never touch on a man unless you want him to become completely addicted is the lower back. Not the spine itself, not the obvious curves, but that small strip of skin just above the waistband of his pants, where his body is naturally warm under his clothes. That area is packed with sensory nerves designed to detect temperature and subtle movement. That's why even the lightest brush there can make him shiver or inhale sharply. The lower back sits at the intersection of safety and surrender. It's the place where the body signals trust. When someone allows another person to get that close, it means their defenses are down. That's why this spot holds power. It's not just about sensation, it's about permission. When you touch a man there, you are communicating without words that you belong close to him. The psychology is simple but powerful. That area is usually protected by clothing, posture, and habit. Breaking that barrier gently flips a subconscious switch. He feels something deeper than arousal. He feels seen, accepted, safe. However, this is also where most people go wrong. Too firm, and it feels controlling. Too quick, and it feels meaningless. The secret is balance, slow, grounded, intentional. Think of your touch as a sentence. Every movement of your fingertips is a word. When you place your hand on his lower back, you're saying, "I know where you're strongest, and I know how to soothe you there." What happens next is biological. The skin in that area is linked to the vagus nerve, which controls relaxation and heart rate. A slow, warm touch releases oxytocin, the hormone of trust, and dopamine, the chemical of anticipation. That's why the effect lingers longer than you expect. He might not even realize why he feels drawn to you. He just knows he is. Here's how to use it wisely. If you're standing next to him, don't grab or lean in. Let your fingers barely rest there as you pass behind him or guide him somewhere. The goal is to make it feel unplanned but not accidental. Subtle intention is the language of attraction. When done right, this touch says, "I see your strength, but I also see the part of you that wants to exhale." That dual message is addictive because men rarely receive it. Most are conditioned to associate touch with performance, not comfort. When you reverse that, when your touch says, "You can stop performing now," it cuts through every layer of defense. He doesn't crave the touch itself. He craves the feeling of being able to rest in it. There's another layer here too. The lower back is also the hinge of movement, the center of gravity. When you touch that spot, you subtly influence his posture. You can draw him closer without pulling, guide him forward without words. That physical dynamic translates emotionally into leadership through softness. You're leading without force, and that paradox is what keeps his attention locked. Attraction built on command can fade. Attraction built on quiet control endures. You can try this. The next time you pass by him, let the tips of your fingers glide over that small area. Then walk away before he turns around. Don't look back immediately. Give him time to register the sensation, to wonder if it was deliberate. That question will keep echoing. His brain will start replaying it, not because of desire, but because the touch created a gap, an unanswered message. This is called the unfinished loop effect. The mind hates open loops. It wants closure. When you leave that touch unresolved, he unconsciously seeks it again to complete the feeling. It's the same principle that keeps people hooked on cliffhangers, songs that fade out mid-note, or stories that never quite end. In physical chemistry, the same rule applies. What's left undone becomes unforgettable. But here's the caution. This isn't a trick to manipulate. It's a reminder to respect the line between interest and invasion. The key is to read his response. Does he lean into the touch? Does his breathing deepen? If so, his body is saying yes. If he tenses or pulls away, back off. Awareness is what separates connection from confusion. When you use this spot correctly, it's not about dominance or seduction, it's about synchronization. His nervous system starts to mirror yours, matching your rhythm, your calm, your tempo. That's how intimacy becomes magnetic rather than mechanical. And here's a secret few people realize. When a man feels guided through safety rather than forced through arousal, his mind links that comfort to the person who gave it to him. That's why he keeps coming back, sometimes without even knowing why. The lower back is your silent way of telling him he can let go. But there's still one more place, the most powerful of all, the one that overrides logic, memory, and resistance in an instant. It's not where most people think, and it's not something you can fake. It's where every addictive touch begins and ends, and it's coming next. The third place you should never touch on a man unless you want him to become addicted isn't a physical point at all. It's the space between his mind and his body, the invisible connection that forms when you touch him while remaining fully present. Most people think physical attraction is about technique, but the truth is that a man's deepest addiction comes from emotional synchronization. When you touch him but your mind is elsewhere, your energy feels scattered, disconnected, and his body senses it instantly. When you touch him while being fully focused, breathing with him, noticing the small changes in his face, the way his muscles respond, his nervous system mirrors yours. That's what makes the moment unforgettable. It's not what you did, it's how aware you were when you did it. Neuroscience calls this limbic resonance, a state where two people's emotional systems synchronize, like instruments tuned to the same frequency. To him, it feels like connection. To you, it feels like control. The paradox is that he can't describe why it feels so powerful. He just knows that when you touch him, it feels different from anyone else. That's where the addiction begins, not in his skin, but in his memory. His brain starts linking you to a specific emotional tone, quiet intensity, safety mixed with desire. Every time he feels that combination again, he'll think of you. That's why the most irresistible touches are those paired with emotional presence. A distracted touch is forgettable. A conscious touch rewires memory. Here's how to activate it. When you're near him, take a quiet breath before you move. Let your thoughts slow down until you can feel your own heartbeat. Then, touch him. It can be anywhere. The neck, the back, the arm. But when your body is aligned with your focus, it changes the vibration of the moment. He'll feel it, even if he doesn't understand it. The air thickens, his breathing adjusts to yours, and time seems to slow down. This isn't magic. It's biology. The human brain is wired to pick up microsignals of attention and intention. When you give him both, he experiences it as magnetism. It's the same energy artists feel when they lose themselves in their craft, or athletes when they enter a state of flow. Except here, the art is touch, and the canvas is his consciousness. You're no longer just someone touching him. You become the environment he feels inside. That's why he can't stop thinking about it afterward. His body remembers before his mind catches up. But here's where you have to be careful. The power of presence can create dependency if misused. You don't use it to manipulate. You use it to deepen authenticity. You're not giving him addiction for the sake of control. You're showing him what true attention feels like. In a world flooded with distraction, that kind of attention becomes rare and, therefore, unforgettable. When he feels it, he doesn't crave the physical sensation. He craves the peace that comes with it. That's what makes this third place so dangerous. It's not a part of the body, it's a state of mind. When you master it, you can guide any moment without speaking. You can silence the noise without a word. Think about how most people interact. Rushed, mechanical, half-present. Now imagine the opposite, slow, deliberate, tuned in. The energy shifts entirely. You're not trying to please him. You're guiding him to a calm that feels like desire. The difference between need and connection is focus. Touching someone without awareness gives pleasure. Touching someone with awareness leaves an imprint. He'll start associating you with a feeling he can't find anywhere else. That's the real secret behind addiction. It's not the body that gets hooked. It's the brain's pursuit of repeating a rare experience. So, how do you apply it? The next time you touch him, even something as simple as adjusting his shirt or brushing a speck off his neck, slow it down. Look at where you're touching. Feel the texture of the fabric, the warmth of his skin underneath. Don't rush. When your movements carry intention, they convey certainty, and certainty feels like confidence. Confidence mixed with softness feels like gravity. That's what pulls him in. Presence turns you from a participant into the center of the moment. Every man wants to feel desired, but few feel deeply seen. When your awareness becomes the touch, you give him both. And once a man experiences that kind of connection, he doesn't want to lose it. It's no longer desire, it's an imprint. And that imprint is what makes him come back, seeking the calm, the rhythm, and the unspoken understanding that only happens when someone touches not just his skin, but his entire sense of being. This is the final and most powerful place, because once you reach it, every touch that follows feels inevitable. Now that you understand the 3 places you should never touch on a man unless you want him to become addicted, the nape of the neck, the lower back, and the space between his mind and body, it's time to see how they connect. When these 3 align, something subtle but powerful happens. You stop being someone who touches his body and become someone who directs his chemistry. Each point activates a different layer of him: instinct, trust, and emotional synchronization. Together, they form what psychologists call a bonding loop, a feedback cycle where pleasure and attachment reinforce each other. It's the same mechanism that makes a song stick in your head or a scent remind you of someone you can't forget. But unlike songs or scents, this loop is built through live touch, making it far more intense and far harder to erase. Here's how it unfolds in real time. When the tips of your fingers brush his nape, his primal brain lights up with alertness and curiosity. He feels a spike of awareness, the kind that wakes up every nerve in his spine. Then, when your hand moves down to his lower back, the signal travels inward toward comfort. His muscles soften, his breathing evens out, his body says, "I trust this." Finally, when your presence envelops the touch, your steady breathing, your absolute focus, his nervous system can no longer tell where his body ends and yours begins. That moment is the true addiction, the feeling of unity. It's what every human secretly craves beneath all the noise of attraction. What makes this so rare is how little it relies on words. You could say nothing and still make him feel more seen than hours of conversation ever could. The reason is that touch, when conscious, becomes a language. Every movement, pause, or micro-adjustment says something that bypasses logic. Most people communicate with words to be understood. You communicate with touch to be felt. The deepest irony is that the less effort you use, the stronger it gets. When you stop trying to impress or prove and simply tune in, your energy stabilizes. That stability translates into control, and control under calm is irresistible. Men, even the confident ones, rarely experience a moment where they can fully relax without losing face. When you create that space, their mind links it to you. You become the calm in their system, the eye of their inner storm. That's what makes him think about you long after. It's not what you did, it's the emotional state you put him in. This is where presence becomes influence. The longer he feels anchored with you, the more he subconsciously seeks that anchor again. The addiction isn't just to pleasure, it's to peace. That's the paradox no one talks about. The most powerful seduction isn't chaos, it's calm. The secret isn't intensity, it's intentionality. When you know how to slow down, guide, and breathe, you become the rhythm he didn't know he needed. The best part is that you don't need to overdo it or play a role. You just need to notice the small shifts in his breathing, the blink of his eyes, the way his shoulders drop when he exhales. These are all feedback loops. The more you observe them, the more synchronized you become, until he starts responding to your energy without even realizing why. That's the true mastery of connection. No words, no rules, just awareness. When you combine awareness with restraint, you create suspense. And suspense is where all addiction begins because the human brain is designed to chase what it can't fully predict. When you give him a taste of connection and then pull back, his mind starts filling in the gap. It imagines, replays, wonders. That's why half of attraction happens in absence, not in contact. Every moment of pause becomes a silent invitation. You're no longer chasing attention, you're drawing it in. And the quieter you are, the more he moves toward you. That's the gravity of emotional chemistry. But here's what no one expects. This level of awareness can change more than your love life. When you learn to control energy and attention, you also learn to lead. You become sharper in conversation, more grounded in presence, more magnetic in silence. Because the same psychology that keeps him drawn to you is the same psychology that makes anyone want to follow someone confident yet calm. That's why the true art of touch is really the art of directing energy. When you can move it, pause it, and focus it, you can change not just how others feel with you, but how you feel with yourself. That's the hidden reward behind all this. You're not just mastering connection with him, you're mastering connection with yourself. And when you reach that point, the line between attraction and authenticity disappears. You stop performing. You start radiating. But there's one final question. What happens when he starts feeling the same loop back toward you? When the addiction reverses, when the touch you once controlled starts echoing back through his actions, his words, his presence, how do you hold that power without losing yourself? That's the next step, and it's one most people never prepare for. When he starts feeling the same loop back toward you, everything changes. The balance you once guided becomes a mirror, and that's where most people lose control. They mistake his addiction for validation, his attention for proof. But the truth is, the moment he starts mirroring your energy, you've reached the edge between influence and dependency. That's where you need clarity, not control, because if you don't understand what's happening, the same chemistry that drew him in can start pulling you under too. Here's what really happens when he starts craving your presence. His brain fires the same neurotransmitters as in reward addiction. Dopamine creates the euphoria of anticipation. Oxytocin builds attachment, and serotonin starts linking you to safety. It's biology, not fate. He's not in love yet. He's in the chemical phase, where his system associates you with peace and pleasure. The more consistent your energy stays, the deeper the imprint. That's why the power now lies in maintaining balance. Don't feed the loop too much. Don't withdraw completely. Instead, shift from stimulation to anchoring. If he's used to you leading the rhythm, slow the tempo. When he leans closer, respond with stillness. When he seeks calm, respond with quiet observation. You're teaching his body a new rhythm, one where attraction matures into awareness. This keeps you both from falling into emotional dependency. Remember, control through connection is delicate. It's strongest when it's invisible. The moment you start chasing a reaction, you've lost direction. That's why true mastery doesn't lie in holding his attention, but in knowing when to release it. Because paradoxically, the more space you allow, the more magnetism builds. The brain values what it can't fully possess. When you become the person who knows how to create space with confidence, you become irreplaceable. That's the difference between being desired and being remembered. Being desired is immediate. Being remembered is timeless. So, how do you stay in control of that power? You anchor yourself. You keep your focus internal, not external. Every time you touch, speak, or look, ask yourself, am I giving energy or am I seeking a response? If you're seeking, slow down. If you're giving, stay grounded. That awareness resets the loop before it consumes you, because what made him addicted wasn't just the touch, it was your centeredness in the moment. Lose that, and you lose the very essence of the connection. Keep it, and you become untouchable. There's another layer to this. When he senses your energy pulling back, he instinctively wants to close the gap. That's his subconscious craving balance. You don't have to push or perform. Just hold your calm and let him come to you. The silence between you becomes charged, not empty. That tension is the purest form of attraction because it's no longer based on effort. It's based on awareness. You've shifted from physical chemistry to energetic mastery. He'll start noticing small things, the way your tone slows his speech, the way your presence shifts his mood, how a single glance changes his breathing. These are the marks of someone fully tuned into another system, but you have to handle it responsibly. Energy this potent can heal or manipulate. Choose to refine it, not exploit it. Let your awareness serve understanding, not ego. Because at the highest level of mastery, seduction becomes serenity. The quiet confidence of knowing that connection isn't something you chase, it's something you create. And that's where the cycle completes. The touch that started as curiosity becomes communication. The awareness that started as attention becomes influence. The addiction that started as physical now becomes emotional memory. You're no longer teaching how to touch. You're teaching how to be. The three places, the neck, the back, and the mind, were never just about physical contact. They were entry points to understanding the human system: sensitivity, trust, and resonance. When the three align, touch becomes a language, and presence becomes an art. That's when he stops comparing, stops searching, and simply feels anchored in you. But remember, every form of art has its paradox. The moment you master it, you have to let it go. If you hold it too tightly, it loses freedom. If you release it too quickly, it loses meaning. So the real test isn't whether he becomes addicted, it's whether you can stay free while he does. You can hold the power without needing proof. You can create desire without losing balance. That's where true mastery begins, because the ultimate touch isn't on his skin, it's in his perception. Once you reach that level, words become unnecessary. Feel your silence, remember your presence, and understand what no language can describe. And maybe that's the point. Not making him addicted, but reminding him what true connection feels like. Reminding yourself that control isn't about holding, it's about knowing when to let go. And as you do, a quiet thought lingers in the air, unfinished, deliberate, a whisper that keeps the loop alive. What if the next touch,